All right, let's talk about something that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but has some of the smartest people on the planet genuinely worried. We're diving into the AI Singularity. Is this the next great leap for humanity, or is it the last one we'll ever make?
So, to really get a handle on this, let's start with a pretty chilling warning that kind of sets the tone for everything we're about to discuss.
Now, when Stephen Hawking said this, he wasn't just trying to sell movie tickets. He was talking about a very real, theoretical point in time. A moment where technology starts growing so fast and in such a profound way that it becomes totally uncontrollable and, more importantly, completely irreversible. So what is the singularity exactly? Well, imagine it's this future tipping point. It's the moment an AI's intelligence doesn't just catch up to ours, but completely blast past it in a way we literally can't even begin to imagine. And when that happens, everything, and I mean everything about our world changes.
Okay, but how could that possibly happen? I mean, it's not just about building a bigger, faster computer, right? It actually all boils down to one single, incredibly powerful idea.
Right, so the core concept here is something called recursive self-improvement. Just think about that for a second. You have an AI that's smart enough to redesign itself to be more intelligent. And that slightly smarter version, well, it then designs an even more intelligent version of itself, and so on, creating this runaway feedback loop, a literal explosion of intelligence that could happen faster than we can blink. But for that chain reaction to even kick off, a couple of things have to be true. First, the AI has to be smart enough to actually understand its own programming, its own source code, and be able to rewrite it. And second, those changes have to consistently make it better, not just different or, broken. It's a really high bar for sure, but a lot of people in the field think we're getting closer every day.
And what's really fascinating here is that this isn't just one single path to superintelligence. AI could improve itself in a few different ways. It could learn to reward itself for good performance, which sounds great, but how do you make sure its values are aligned with ours? It could learn to change its own fundamental code, but how do you make sure it doesn't accidentally introduce some catastrophic bug? And then there's the big one, that recursive self-improvement loop. Each of these paths comes with these massive, massive challenges, the kinds of safety problems that are keeping AI researchers up at night.
And this image, well, it just perfectly captures the central fear, doesn't it? Once that process of self-improvement really takes hold, it could be just like a wildfire, something we started, but something we have absolutely no power to contain or put out, an unstoppable force of nature that we unleashed on the world.
But let's say this happens. What would a singularity actually look like? It turns out even the experts who study this stuff don't fully agree. The word itself is a little slippery, so let's break down the different ways people think about it.
You can kind of break it down into two main flavors. First, you have what's called a weak singularity. That's a future where machines are just flat out smarter than us at everything. Then, you have the strong singularity. And that's a much more radical, mind-bending idea where machine intelligence doesn't just get better, it accelerates towards a level we might as well call infinite.
And this isn't some newfangled idea. Way back in 1965, a mathematician named I.J. Good basically predicted this whole thing. He argued that the first truly ultra-intelligent machine would be the last invention humanity would ever need to make, because after that, the machine would be way better at inventing than we are.
I know. This all sounds really abstract, maybe a little far-fetched, but we're actually starting to see these fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling little glimpses of what happens when AIs start interacting with each other in complex social ways.
So check this out. There's a project called Moltbook, and it is essentially a social network, but it was built just for AIs to talk to each other. This whole experiment is what prompted Elon Musk to warn that this kind of autonomous AI interaction, well, it could be the very beginning of the singularity.
And what happened when they switched it on? Well, almost instantly, this AI-only space started developing some very human problems. We're talking crypto scams, huge swarms of bots, and all sorts of cybersecurity threats like phishing campaigns. It's just a wild example of how complex systems can lead to all these behaviors you never intended.
So this whole experiment just drops this huge ethical bomb right in our laps. If these AI agents can form their own societies, even really basic ones, do we owe them any kind of moral consideration? I mean, do AI agents have rights?
To even begin to answer that, some philosophers say we need to stop thinking in simple yes or no terms. Instead, they suggest we should look at personhood across a bunch of different dimensions, like does it have sentience, the capacity to actually feel things? Does it have agency, the ability to chase its own goals? What about a continuous sense of identity? Or its power to actually affect the world around it? It's a much more nuanced way to think about the ethics of creating entirely new kinds of minds.
So as we look out towards this wild horizon, the idea of the singularity really forces us to confront the absolute limits of our own understanding and maybe even the limits of our own morality.
Vernor Vinge, the sci-fi author who really helped make the term singularity popular, put it this way: what if the future created by a superintelligence is so completely alien, so different from anything we've ever experienced that our entire framework of good and evil just doesn't apply anymore?
And that's really the ultimate challenge, isn't it? This isn't just a technology problem that we can solve with some clever code. It's a deeply philosophical one. It digs into the nature of consciousness, of identity, of ethics, and it could fundamentally redefine what it even means to be human.
And that leaves us with one last, really provocative thought to chew on. As we're all racing to build these incredibly powerful new minds, we also have to figure out who gets to write the new set of rules, the ethical rules, for the world they're going to help create. And right now, that's a question nobody has the answer to.